everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Ketodontist Podcast, where we take the best information in health and wellness regarding keto, primal, paleo, oral health, hence the dentist, and bring it to you fine folks. Now, as a reminder, this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute a doctor-patient relationship, nor does it replace the care of your personal medical professional. It is advised to seek medical counsel before undertaking a new diet or fitness regimen. So with that, we have episode 2 today. We have a great guest on. His name is Luis Villasenor from the Keto Gains website and group. Excellent guy who is very generous for his time. We ended up chatting for 2 whole hours. Non-stop. It gets dense. It's great content, though. And so, for that, to make it a little bit more digestible for folks, we are breaking it up into 2 episodes. And they're going to be about an hour apiece. So, this week will be episode 2, part 1. Next week will be episode 3, part 2, if that makes sense. So anyways, just wanted to give you guys a little heads up that we are splitting this one since it took so long, but I didn't want to skimp on the content because we just kept going and it was great. So I hope you guys really enjoy it. If you do like the show, please subscribe, leave us a review. Written reviews are awesome, and share it with your friends because these are messages that we need to get out there, and it's really exciting times. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. Take care. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Ketodontist Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Matt. I got to say, I am super excited about today's guest. He really challenged my beliefs in how I thought keto should be done and the science behind keto. I learned about him a little over a year ago and started following his work, joined his Facebook group, and really challenged my beliefs on a lot of things for the better. Really opened my eyes to some of the research and science out there that I wasn't really aware of at the time, and has really caused a fundamental shift in my way of thinking of nutritional science. So super excited for today's guest. His name is Luis Villasenor. He is the founder of Keto Gains. Say hi to everybody, Luis, and I'll get into your introduction here.
Sure. Hey, hello everybody. I'm Luis Villasenor from Mexico, and thanks, Matt, for having me here.
Absolutely. A pleasure to have you. So, Luis has always been passionate about fitness due to his personal interest in improving his own physique. Always curious in learning the whys and the hows of how it all works, he has been studying and researching nutrition and strength training since he was 17. Upon discovering ketogenic diets back in 2001, Luis has been on a low-carb regimen ever since, which he has used favorably to recomposition his body and improve his health. Due to this, Luis decided to develop Keto Gains as a way to share his experiences and knowledge and help people attain their health and fitness goals. Luis is regarded as one of the most experienced and knowledgeable persons on low-carb ketogenic dieting and is the go-to guy when applying low-carb diets for bodybuilding and strength training by well-known and respected leaders, influencers in the low-carb paleo and general fitness communities such as Rob Wolf, Tom Foxley, Paul Burgess, Amy Berger, Christopher Kelly, Ben Greenfield, list goes on and on. His credentials include but not limited to elite trainer by the International Sports Science Association, ISAA, and also through the ISAA, he's a specialist in fitness nutrition, certified fitness trainer, fitness and exercise therapist, and he's currently studying for a corrective exercise specialist. He's a Bayesian bodybuilding personal trainer, and he's also studying for the Primal Health Coach certification that I completed. So congrats to that. I think you'll really like it, Luis.
Awesome.
He's also a CrossFit Level 1 trainer. He is a sponsored athlete for Evolution nutraceutical company, and he has a bachelor's in business administration and marketing through the Universidad Iberoamericana. I gotta say, man, you're a renaissance. You're a renaissance man. Like you do anything and everything.
I try to. You said at the beginning, I like to learn by myself a lot of things. Basically, the reason I didn't study nutrition from the get-go is because my family has been very business oriented, so from always. So the idea for me was either to work in the family business or either make my own, either a restaurant, build a hotel, or even a gym. But so I concentrated more on the business side of things. And also, at the time, being a nutritionist in Mexico, a male nutritionist was not very well seen. It's more like a career here in Mexico for women.
Mm-hmm.
So like I didn't saw myself at the time like giving consultations and sitting behind the desk all day and waiting for the patient to come, and.
Yep.
So it was not really in my point of view, even though I was more passionate about it. But it's the I don't know if that saying goes or it explains well in English, but sometimes destiny changes.
Absolutely.
You end up doing something completely entirely.
Yeah, I get that. There's a saying, God laughs at your plans, and I totally believe that. So, very cool. Well, how? Tell me a little bit about your backstory. You said that you went into business first, but you got started with fitness and bodybuilding at a young age. Tell me a little bit about that. What got you interested in that? Then what kept you going?
Sure. Well, basically, people may not know it, but I was very overweight as a kid. I was a quintessential fat kid in school. It's funny now. This is also another anecdote that I like to share. Back at the time, I'm almost, I'll be 40 years in 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
So, back in the 80s here in Mexico, there was like 1 or 2 fat kids per generation.
Yep.
Like in the movies, the classic fat kid who they pick on school or who they didn't pick for sports or whatever. So there were only 2 fat kids in my generation. It was me and another friend who passed away recently due heart complications because he was very overweight still. Yeah. But that's another story. But the thing is, we were only 2 fat kids in the generation. And now I found that recently here in Mexico, the normal is for 2 kids to be thin. Most of them are
right.
fat.
Yeah.
How times change. But then, okay, the thing is, I was one of the fat kids, so I really never liked to play sports. I was not very good. I used to only, like, my hobbies were reading comic books, playing G.I. Joe, Star Wars, watching cartoons, reading Encyclopedia Britannica, and so I'm a nerd at heart. So I try to learn and read everything I can. So one day I just decided I didn't want to be fat anymore. I didn't want to be the one who they picked at school, and I didn't want to be I didn't want to be fat as to not be laughed at.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that if I wanted to play video games or to watch TV, I would do it while doing some kind of exercise because I didn't like to, play soccer or any of the sports that normally kids play. So I bought myself, I don't know if you remember this device. I don't know if it exists anymore, Nordic Truck.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
It was all the rage back in the 80s. So I saw an infomercial on it, and I said to myself, oh, that's a cool, like cardio machine that I could get, and I could use it and put it everywhere. And it just happened that a neighbor had a garage sale, so like I got it for peanuts.
Nice.
So I got the Nordic Track and I placed it in front of my TV, and every time that I watch TV or play video games, I did it while using the Nordic Track.
Uh-huh.
It's also a task because you're supposed to be skiing with your hands while you have traction on your feet. So imagine doing that with a controller.
Right.
So I also I think I made it a little bit harder, but with that, let's say that I lost about my first 10 or 15 pounds.
Uh-huh.
So I went from an obese kid to a chubby kid. So I was not really fit or strong, but I lost weight, a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about nutrition or dieting. I just knew that you had to eat a little bit less
And move
and,
more.
and move a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, the classic, but I had no idea exactly how it worked. Uh, they had taken me to nutritionists and dietitians, and it didn't work because they never explained me the reasons why. And for example, I remember the first time they took me to one, and this was a very overweight lady, and for me it didn't make sense that she was a nutritionist who was going to explain to me or to get me to lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
and she was overweight.
Yeah.
So am I going to listen to someone who is overweight in the first place?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it didn't, for me as a kid, it didn't make any sense. And also how she explained me or gave me the diet in the end made me become gain weight because she didn't explain me exactly the rules. Like she said, just what do you like to have for dinner? Oh, well, hot dogs. Okay, so instead of having hot dogs with the bun, just get as many as you want without the bun. But in my kid's mind, what I did was, okay, I cannot have hot dog. I cannot have the bun, but then I'm going to have the best hot dog ever. So what I did is buy one of those German, big hot dogs,
Uh-huh.
German style, where they're like 3 times the
Oh
size of
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had like two of those with a lot of mayo and ketchup.
Uh-huh.
So probably, maybe if I had eaten two normal hot dogs, it would be 500 calories. And now I was eating probably 700 or 1,000 calories
Yeah.
from the other hot dogs. So because she never explained that, the next session I went with like 2 kilos more, doing what she told me to do.
Uh-huh.
Right? I tried to bend the rules, but because I didn't have any rules, like didn't work. So again, that like made me angry and was like, why? When I'm doing what she's telling me, it's not working. So there must be something that is wrong there. So I tried to study again on my own. So the first things I did was buy some fitness magazines, for example, and try to read and understand. Because at the time, like let's think back 1980s
Yeah.
or so, there was not much information. There was no internet,
Exactly.
and that's for a kid, unless in Mexico. So I had to go and buy expensive magazines for us that were in English.
Yep.
Get more information. That's also how I learned English. Like
Oh, really?
we have English in Mexico and in schools, but not so like advanced.
Yeah.
So basically, my English is self-taught from reading magazines, watching movies, and basically reading everything that I can.
I see.
Then eventually, I was also a fan of action movies, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was a big influence for me. I wanted to be like that guy.
Uh-huh.
So I started buying, again, fitness magazines. I bought my first set of dumbbells and barbells, and as normally it goes, you start training, you start eating a little bit better, what they say in the magazines, and start to see a little better results. I outgrew the small gym I had in my house, so I went to a normal gym. And yes, that was when I was around 17. And also at the time in Mexico, nobody lifted weights.
Yeah.
Like a, strong, like a strange specimen, even less in my circle of friends. Like everybody either played soccer or did whatever or did nothing.
Yeah.
But I was the one that went to like a garage gym and lifted. So it became something that I did by myself, for myself, like in seclusion as a hobby.
Yeah.
And it became like a religion. I did it, even if I work it. For example, when I was at university, I had classes at 7. I used to wake up at 4 a.m. just to be able to go to the gym, and go to classes, then go to work, then, do all of my daily course and my lifestyle, even be with girlfriends and everything. But my lifting and my diet was in secret. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing because I didn't want to explain and nobody understood. So it's better just like when you say about keto is nobody talks about keto. I don't know if you heard that rule. It's it's better not to talk about it when you're with with certain types of people because they won't understand, and it's so tiring to explain everything and all the nuance, and then you have
going through that over and over.
So it's just like I did it all by myself, and eventually people start to ask me questions, but I didn't really take it so seriously until I was like 25 or so. even after I finished college. But that's how I started with strength training, basically,
Gotcha.
and fitness, right? Just studying by myself and probably thinking of doing it later on the future, but more so as a hobby.
Gotcha.
Never took that seriously as a business approach or as something to work in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, from that time, from when you were 17 to early 2000s, when you came across this low carb ketogenic way of doing it, tell me a little bit about that. How did you find out about ketogenic diets? What led you to pursue that further?
Well, basically, like I said, at the time I was already getting results,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know much about diet. I just knew I had to, use protein shakes after training or before training, and
Yeah.
probably use creatine, and yada yada. You know what the magazines tell you, but
Yeah,
the magazines
exactly.
tell you one thing 1 month, and then the next one they'll tell you another thing entirely different. Or they have super business plans where you have this, eating plans where you have to eat every 3 hours, and now the new beans you're on the diet, are now new Arnold's plan for six pack. Like everything that probably they don't even do, but it is just to sell another
Yeah, it's
number.
fresh content to sell new magazines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was sponsored by a supplement company that wants you to buy their product. So what happened is that at that time, internet became a thing
Mm-hmm.
at around 2000,
Yep.
right? So I got my first email account. The nerd that I was, I started playing video games on internet, and then realized that there were bulletin boards, which are very much the predecessors to current forums and Facebook groups, and
Mm-hmm.
so.
Yep.
And I found out that there was a bodybuilding group. So I started frequenting that group mostly, as a lurker,
Mm-hmm.
uh, just to see what the real guys who were bodybuilding were doing, and not, because I saw that one thing is what you read in magazines, and
Yeah.
the other is the real,
Yeah,
what
exactly.
people actually do. So I wanted to be like, how the hell does, for example, Sylvester Stallone get that body when he's on, for Rocky, paper thin skin, or Arnold for looking like Conan, or the bodybuilders before a contest? How do they achieve that look? Okay, yeah, probably steroids, but they have to do something with the diet.
Yeah.
So I started looking at what they were doing and reading on these bulletin boards, and I stumbled upon the basic diet that, example, beans gironda, just protein and a little carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know at the time really the big difference between macros, but I understood what proteins are, and probably vegetables and starches, and so I started trying to implement that, and starting and seeing that gave me results, because I remember one time, for example, I was in Orlando. I went on vacation with my family, and I had been eating like I normally eat, which is higher on meats and lots of green vegetables, but also all kinds of vegetables at the time,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of fruit. But I was not a very someone who ate lots of bread or sweets. And so when I started training, I used to before when I was fat, but afterwards I didn't hover to those kinds of foods.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like leaner and tighter. But on that vacation, I remember that I went to a buffet, and I decided to have pancakes and syrups and all those things that normally I didn't have in Mexico.
Yeah.
And I just remember that I had a pair of tight fitting jeans, and the next day I couldn't use them.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what happened? Like, it's not like I just ate one day and I gained like 5 pounds
Mm-hmm.
from one day to another. And what happened now that I look back is probably that I was in a ketogenic state
Yeah.
because of the diet that I had been doing, which was probably just, as I said, proteins and green vegetables. I
Yep.
didn't know it at the time that I was doing actually that. And I had lost a lot of water weight and glycogen.
Yep.
And then I did a carb load. But like one day of carb loading like that made me gain lots of water weight, basically like 4 or 5 pounds. And I could not close my jeans, and I was on a vacation. So it was like, what the hell happened here?
Right.
No, I had no idea. So I went back and started looking on that, and then that's when I found about this approach that was called low carb and ketogenic diet. And I found about this guy who is called Lyle McDonald.
Yeah.
Probably
Mm-hmm.
heard about him. And I saw that he frequented basically the bulletin boards, and he had a book So I made my first Amazon account, and one of the first, if not the first books I bought on Amazon was basically the Ketogenic Diet by Lyle McDonald.
Gotcha.
And I had it sent to Mexico, and that along with other bodybuilding books, I remember them still, Body Opus by Dan Duquesne, and I don't remember exactly right now the other one, but they're basically the two books where Lyle McDonald used to, let's call it, remake the ketogenic diet, because most of them are just basic keto books, and Lyle used them as inspiration, and he revamped the content and improved it to build his book.
Gotcha.
And basically, the ketogenic diet by Lyle has been my Bible, or was my first introduction to ketogenic dieting, and also one of my best introductions to basic nutrition, because he doesn't write just how to do ketogenic diet. He goes all the way in explaining the basics of nutrition and how they apply to dieting, and why you get fat with other diets, and how you can get leaner by using a ketogenic approach. So it's like, if someone wants to learn not just about keto, but about basic nutrition, it's a great resource, and it's a great starter book. It may be a little bit dense and require lots of readings to really grasp the content, but it's, I think, a book that anybody who is serious about a ketogenic diet should have, and read not once, but like all the time that they have any questions. Like, I still go back and find things that I had not paid attention in the first place.
Right.
And they were there in the first place, you know?
Yeah, you couldn't grasp it at the time, but now that you know and you've learned and you go back, it's
And
like another aha moment. Like, oh, okay, now I get this.
Basically, that's how I got into keto, by reading that book, and then started playing with myself with that approach, and seeing that I liked to eat that way, that I felt better, that it improved my physique and allowed me to train like I wanted. And also, like everybody who reads the book, and more so at that time, you want to get the best of both worlds. So you decide to do normal keto, standard ketogenic diet, but also do the carb loading phase, because that you get to stay keto, lose weight, and also eat pizza and ice cream and everything.
Enjoy pancakes.
That's an illusion that happened to me. I did it for, like, let's say probably the first year, but not really like it should be done. I did it like people do it, which is cheating and with everything. Not really following the protocol as it should be done. And also, I actually found that I didn't like it, doing it that much, because I prefer salty foods, and as I said, meats and vegetables and everything. And when I actually did the carb loads, like, they're fun for the first times, but then how you feel afterwards, tired, lethargic. You don't have, like, in my case, normally it's like, okay, you were on a Saturday or Sunday, and so you're supposed to go with friends and and have a great time, and then you end up just eating, and then you want to sleep, so you don't enjoy anything.
Right.
Or you are tired or bloated. It's just like something that lasts like maybe 2 hours. The pleasure and the joy. And then you're like, why the hell did I even do this?
And it ruins the rest of your day.
Exactly. So in the end, what happened in that regard is that I just started spacing them out more and more. I just did it because I thought you had to do them.
That you had to refeed your glycogen stores and all that.
Exactly. Otherwise, I will not be able to lift, and then I will lose all my muscle and all that pro science. But then basically I forgot about them, and I just did it like maybe once every 2 months, and just like, even I didn't do the classic carb load. I just maybe had a dessert, or in occasions where I was at a party, or like I had to have that chocolate cake because it was the best chocolate ever, or probably a cheesecake that someone made and was an incredible cheesecake. But I had like one piece or two, and that's it. That was really not a carb load. And eventually, like I said, I forgot about them, and I didn't have any issues with my training or my muscle development. And so I started researching and said, like, well, they're not even necessary. When you look behind the lines and the explanation why, I said, okay, so I'm having great results without them, then why? If I do them and I feel bad and it doesn't really improve anything, then why keep doing them?
Yeah.
So that's basically, I just like threw them off.
Gotcha. Well, very cool. So, you getting started in 2001 with Keto Gains, or with ketogenic diets. How did that progress to you starting Keto Gains, and what was the time span of that, and how has that evolved from when you started it to what you have going on now?
Well, that's also a long story. Basically, like I said before, I did keto and strength training for myself.
Yep.
Just like from all my friends, nobody does either right now any sports.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably all married with children.
Yeah.
Or never did any sort of even weight training. Every time that I tried to take anybody, we're like, nah, this is so boring. Nah. So even my brothers, like probably like the first commercial gym, like chain gym that I went because of my brother.
Mm-hmm.
As we bought the subscription together, like a nice I don't know, LA Fitness here in Mexico, for example. We went. He went like for 3 months, and I stayed like for 8 years. So it's like he went 3 months, like 3 days a week, while I went every day, and I've been going like 8 years to that same location. I just recently changed it because I moved, but like okay. So what happened is like, okay, I started. I was doing that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I never explained anyone how I ate, and even if you went to eat with me, you probably just, if you normally eat with me, you will see that I eat lots of vegetables and some meat like chicken or whatever, fish.
Mm-hmm.
You will never notice that I really eat weird. Like
Gotcha.
I've had girlfriends that I went with like 2 years, and they never knew that I was doing a weird diet.
Right.
They just knew that I didn't eat rice or beans or bread, but probably they thought because I was fit, and I really never explained if they didn't ask
Or
me.
they
So
just think that you just didn't enjoy those. They didn't
yeah,
think
it's
it was
like no,
because
no,
of the
I
particular.
don't eat them because I'm on a bodybuilding diet, and they're respected. It was easier to explain that carbs and insulin and fat, and
Right.
So I was doing my own, and then I stumbled upon this place that is called Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I started using Reddit because I was looking for video games or something. I don't remember exactly, but I found that there was a keto board. So, and it was very big, and so I started reading and said, okay, that's like the diet I normally do. It's great to find some people that actually do it and talk about it, and etc. So I started commenting there, and so, but then there were some people commenting about strength training and lifting weights and blah, blah, blah. And all the advice that they were giving was wrong, or most of the advice that they were giving was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I started commenting and correcting people and helping people to actually, like if they were saying something that was basically wrong, I said, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
But as you know, in Reddit, you can say whatever, and it can be either right or it can be either wrong, and unless people vote you. I don't know if you're familiar with Reddit, but as an algorithm where people like what you say or don't like it. So if they like it, they vote you upward.
Yeah.
Then you start to get, let's call it like a credibility.
Yeah.
So you become like someone who has lots of credibility on Reddit, is because people like what you say and they vouch for you or not. So I started to become like a person in that board.
Gotcha.
But also, some people didn't like my approach.
Yeah.
Because it was a little bit contrarian to what they had known of a ketogenic diets. For example, I never said, like I do now, to use ratios. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it don't make any sense. People confuse ratios. They don't understand how they actually work because they don't have the background of nutrition.
Yeah.
They don't know how they relate to actual calories or macros or whatever. They just follow a percentage ratio because that's what they read, or they think that, for example, they need to actually ingest that amount of fat to become and maintain ketogenic state, which we know right now that it's not necessary.
Yeah, and for my listeners, Luis, I'll explain this just a little bit. What he's talking about ratios is there's a thought process in ketogenic diets of following ratios of carbs versus proteins versus fat. So total percentage of your calories You know, I've seen some places state 60% fat all the way up to 80% of your calories per day should come from fat, 20 to 30% protein, around 5% carbs. So when he's talking about ratios, that's what he's talking about, is the people who propose a ketogenic diet using ratios of 5% carbs, 20% proteins, 75% fat.
Exactly. That's something we can talk about in a few moments.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I think
we'll go into that more in a little bit. But
exactly, it does require a more profound explanation.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is that eventually, because I was a little bit contrarian on the keto board, and as I started to get more popular and people asked me for advice, I became friends with the moderators there. I actually then became a moderator, but they went like, hey Luis, like we appreciate what you're doing, but you're also confusing lots of people, and not everybody wants to get to be a bodybuilder, and not everybody wants to get fit, and blah blah blah. They came. There's a lot of people there, and there's also a lot of highest approach. I don't know if you're familiar with it,
Yep.
which is health at every size.
Yep.
So, basically, they banished me. So they say, okay, you're doing great work, but why don't you go away and create a new subreddit? Let's call it
play
Keto.
in your own little sandbox.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I had a great friend that actually, his handle is called Keto for Life. He's one of the top moderators in keto, and he said like, hey, so how about we create a Keto Gains forum, and you go and moderate, and it's your playground, and you can say whatever there, and we like throw people to you when they start about talking about strength training and sports for keto, blah blah blah. And I said, well, okay, yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with building or running a forum, but you know, Reddit is super taxing.
Yeah.
In the way that it's a little bit different than Facebook. On Facebook, you get people that ask lots of questions and follow. But on Reddit, the personalities mostly are from people that want to do their own thing by themselves, question everything.
Yep.
Likely overachievers, or they think they are overachievers. They're very hard. So they started asking either basic questions or very high-end questions that I didn't even know at the time. So the first thing that I decided to do, instead of having to copy paste and say the same things over and over and over, I started, I built a wiki with the basic frequently asked questions.
Yep.
And it started from like probably 10 questions to right now it's over, if you were to print the wiki, it's over 250 pages long or more.
Yeah.
We are updating it. Right now we're revamping it and adding lots of graphics. And so we're actively working on it to improve it, because I think it's the backbone of Keto Gains. So that's how Keto Gains came to be. And it was a hobby that I did on my downtime.
Yeah.
But at the time I was running a restaurant that we and my family had. And on the, like I said, on the downtime, I used to like help people or study. And because, like I said, on Reddit, people ask the most dense questions, and it's a place where you actually can get into very deep debates with very knowledgeable people. Like, you don't know who you are talking to.
Yeah.
So you be talking sometimes with someone who has a nickname as Kitty Kitty Cat, but he's actually a PhD in biochemistry, and he's going to basically kick your ass when you are saying probably stupid things. So I had to, you know, get more informed and start actually studying, and so, you know, to not just blurb any stupid things that I used to do.
Yeah.
Like if I look at myself like probably 8 years ago, now like right now I spend most of the time in my day reading and studying on new you know, studies and applications and books or certifications. But at the time, most of my knowledge had been from either some books and a little bit of self-experience.
Yeah.
So I got my name called out various times, so that made me actually go back and study before actually speaking.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So basically that's how Keto Gains was born. And then eventually, because it started taking more and more and more of my time, I decided to actually start coaching. And well, that's how basically this business side of Keto Gains came to be. When I started coaching, I said to myself I had to have more certification. So I started also studying
Mm-hmm.
seriously on that end. That's why I got so many. And now I'll try to improve myself as to get more, even more, right?
Right.
And not stay static with the knowledge. At the time, we also opened the Facebook group. And right now the Facebook group has basically outgrown Reddit by basically, I think it's 2 times bigger right now.
Wow. Wow.
So
And
we're
Reddit's a
close
big
at,
place. So for the private Facebook,
yeah,
closed Facebook group
yeah, it's
to
closed.
do that.
Basically, people ask us why it's closed, and it's closed for 2 reasons. One, because we do look at who wants to join. It's like a basic by invitation in
Mm-hmm.
regards to we don't like people who come and laugh at our users.
Yeah.
So it's little bit of as a protection because keto diets and the bodybuilding world are people like to troll people who do keto,
Yep.
particularly because they were not well informed
Yep.
and they may say things that are wrong, but it's not that they are like protected, but like everybody's welcome. But if you're serious, we can let you in. If you just came here to troll,
Yeah.
then you're not welcome. That's one thing. And also because we have lots of people who are overweight and insecure,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to ask questions without having their spouse asking them, why are you doing this? You're going to get a heart attack, or their family or friends.
Yeah.
So they can ask all the questions here, and there's no issue. Or they can post pictures of them doing exercises, or even if in a bathing suit if they want. And we respect that, and we will help them achieve a better, a fitness goal or body recomposition. And it's a safe space here. What you do in the group stays in the group unless you want to take it out. And if it's a closed group, only the people that are in the group will see it.
Yeah. And what I really respect about your group is it does a very good job at walking this tightrope of being a safe space against trolls and for support, but you guys also don't coddle. If someone's spilling misinformation, you tactfully, but you call it out. Or when somebody posts that they've cheated on their diet, or they're just they're looking for a pity party. It's not all hugs and rainbows. You guys also kind of hold them accountable as well, and so that's why I like that balance.
The thing is, we've seen like first by running the main keto board, then by running Keto Gains, and here, and also like I major in marketing and study psychology.
Mm-hmm.
When you start letting a group deviate, then everybody deviates. So what happens if you allow? We don't do it because we are mean and we're on a power trip. We actually have a reason for everything.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the reason we don't allow cheat posts is because this is not a confession forum.
Yeah.
This is a science and study forum. We want to teach people how to do it and wise. So if you allow a cheat post, what will happen is, I've seen it firsthand, you let one go, and then you have everybody raising their hands, says, I've cheated as well, I've cheated as well, I've cheated as well. And then everybody thinks that it's okay to cheat.
Yeah.
If you cheat, it's your business. Just go back and get back to the diet the next day. But it's not that we know that people cheat. I've cheated.
Yeah.
You've cheated. Everybody does. We're human. We're going to fail eventually. But it's just get up and don't punish yourself. Get back on track. This is how you get back on track. And we don't want everybody to confess. This is not a place. It's not a church. We don't care.
Yeah.
Basically, that's one thing. And when calling out people on the other side, it's not because also we are mean, but because if you let someone say something and it's not checked and corrected, then everybody that reads that comment will think that is okay. And most people say, some people write with an air of authority.
Mm-hmm.
They even say, me and my clients, as to give them, the sense that they are trainers or whatever. So they sound authoritative, and they may sound like they know how to, to say things. And people are reading that. We have over 75,000 people.
Yep.
And some of those 70,000 people are going to probably believe it and do it.
Yep.
And we are building here a blueprint for people to do the things that need to be done, and to do them in the shortest way or the best way. So by allowing things that are contrary to what we suggest, then people may think that that's what we are saying. So that we have to be very careful with that.
Yeah,
Basically,
that's what the Keto Gains brand is all about when it's actually absolutely not. So
exactly. And also we are open for corrections. Like there's not just us moderators or people who are in the group. We have lots of even writers, scientists, doctors in the group. So I've been corrected, and I allow corrections on myself and the group. And if we are corrected and the science is out there, we change our stance.
Yeah.
Basically, like one example I give is I was very much against the intermittent fasting, and way before it was a thing, because now it's all the rage and everybody wants to fast. But it's not like we are hipsters,
Yeah.
but we've been fasting like for 4 years. Like, there's a lean gains approach to dieting,
Yeah.
which is very similar to what we do on Keto Gains with our clients. But it's not like fasting for 24 hours. But in the sense, I was a little bit against fasting because it's not optimal for, body composition.
Mm-hmm.
And me as a background on bodybuilding, and by some of my nutrition course that I've had, there's one thing that people don't grasp very well, which is context.
Yep.
And how to apply it. So if your goal is building muscle optimally, then fasting might not be optimal.
Yeah.
Now, if your main goal is losing weight, and probably you have addictive tendencies to eating or binge eating, then probably you could incorporate. So you have to learn and balance what is your most important goal and then when to do it. Yep. But the point here is that we were very much against fasting, but as more science has come along, we actually, like we said, we do practice it and suggest it. So some clients, we're not close to it actually, but we don't think it's optimal, even less doing the 24 hours fast that some people do without regard even more to being counting calories and macros.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, basically that's what Keto Gains is all about probably saying the things that people don't want to hear,
yep,
but that you have to hear.
And that's where I was at, to be honest, because like I said, I was all about, I've always enjoyed vegetables, and I always thought that vegetables should be part of a very healthy diet, very well-rounded diet, even with low carb. And that's something, to get on a little tangent, that's something, one of the stigmas against low carbs that's pretty unfounded. I first lost 100 pounds back in high school after reading Dr. Atkins' book. And because I actually read it from cover to cover and learned about it starts you off with a ketogenic diet, but he very much was about eat all the green leafy vegetables, just pack your day full of vegetables, as long as you're keeping your total carbohydrate or your net carbohydrates within your limit to initiate ketosis. So vegetables have always been a part of my diet. But, I was thinking about I kind of fell into the whole trap with the use as much fat as you want and all that stuff. The calories don't matter, hormones matter, and all that stuff. And then when I came across you guys and a little bit about my story, I gained tons of weight in professional school, in dental school, because of stress, and I went away from low carb because some of my professors said low carb diets were evil and going to kill me, and so I listened to them, and I gained weight right back, even though I kept it off for years. Gained weight right back, and then with stress, lack of exercise, excess alcohol consumption, I gained it back. And so I started losing again, and my first 40 pounds I lost relatively easily going back to a ketogenic diet, but I wasn't tracking macros. I wasn't doing anything like that. I was having all the fat that I want, and I've heard you say something similar to this, like that's fine. That kind of what we call lazy keto, that approach is fine and it'll work until it doesn't.
Exactly.
And that's where I got to. I got to this point. I went from 350 down to 320 pretty easily, and then it just went kaput, and I could not go anywhere. I stayed there for about a year. I just was not going anywhere. And then that's when I, had been learning from you guys and having my my beliefs challenged from you guys. And so then I signed up with with one of your boot camps. Really did a deep dive into the macros and all that stuff, tweaking that, and then I started plowing through my plateau again. So it's one of those things. That's fine, that unmeasured way of doing it, that's fine if you're getting results, but eventually you're probably going to not get results anymore, and then it's time to really fine-tune some things.
Yeah, like we call them lazy, that approach is lazy keto.
Yep.
Some people get offended. It's not that you're lazy, it's the name of the approach.
Yeah.
And it works for a while, and it can work for maintenance.
Yeah.
Not really for fat loss and not long term.
Yeah.
And there's actually a science explanation as to why it doesn't work. I don't know if you actually know it.
Well, I do, because I've read a lot about that, but explain a little bit for my listeners.
Sure. Like here's what happens. Like there are various phases when you start a ketogenic diet, and even more so if you come from a traditional standard American diet or a hard cut diet everywhere in the world. And basically is if you are normally or currently eating a higher carbohydrate diet, your body stores carbohydrates in your muscles as glucose. So it's called glycogen. It's like a starch molecule. Mm-hmm. So that contains a lot of water, and that glycogen as well also weighs more. So you can probably be carrying, depending on your frame, between 5 up to even 50, 20 pounds of water weight. Depends on the person and the size. Mm-hmm. So you start the diet. First, you will lose a lot of weight once you stop ingesting carbohydrates, because your body starts using those stored carbohydrates as energy.
Yep.
So let's say you use that glycogen, that glucose, because your body does need it. So let's you lose like those 15, 10, 5 pounds you had, and also you pee a lot. So yep. You lose water weight and lose this glycogen. So this is called like the honeymoon phase, where people start the diet and they lose incredibly amounts of weight in a very short span of time, and they think that the diet is a miracle because they never lost that amount of weight before so rapidly.
Yep.
If they go and cheat because they want to celebrate they lost so much weight, they're probably gonna get a lot of it back, if not all.
Yep.
But okay, let's say that you keep doing the diet, and then you don't lose 15 pounds or 10 pounds each week or each 2 weeks. Weight loss becomes starts like stalling, or the rate is slower, but you still lose about probably 2 or 4 pounds of weight a week. Again, this is total weight. We are not even looking at actual body fat percentages, which is what people should pursue, not really weight. But then
absolutely, but unfortunately, with the biggest loser mentality and the glamorization of that type of stuff, everybody's focused on total weight and what the scale says, and not necessarily focusing on body recomposition, which we'll talk about more later. But yeah.
So then, okay, let's say that you are still losing probably 3 pounds or 2 pounds on average, and that's awesome as well. But this happens and let's say that people here are not even counting calories. They're just restricting carbohydrates. They're eating lots of fat, and so because that's what they've been told to.
Yep.
What happens here at first is that your body doesn't, if you come from a high carb diet, your body doesn't have the complete enzymes in your body, in your stomach, in your digestive system, to actually digest properly all this new fat that you were not used to eating before. So that some of it is wasted. Then on a cellular level, your mitochondria cannot also use this energy properly. So again, also a lot of energy is wasted.
Mm-hmm.
And then for people who don't know, this diet is called ketogenic because your body uses fatty acids, metabolizes them, and produces these particles that are called ketones.
Yep.
Your body also does not know how to use properly ketones. It can use them, but because you've not been ketogenic for a while, even since you were born, let's say that it has forgotten, in a way, how to use them properly. So your body is producing more ketones that it can actually use properly.
Mm-hmm.
So this takes a while. So again, there's a lot of energy that you're just wasting.
Yeah.
So people may even experience a higher temperature,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why basically it's like if you were using a car that is not properly tuned and oiled, and you're putting gasoline in, but lots of that gasoline is just being wasted.
Yeah.
So that's why you have lots of people who eat 3,000 calories
Yep.
or 5,000, and they're not gaining weight and even losing weight because ketones do have calories, but you're peeing them. That's why you use pee sticks at the start of the diet.
Yep.
You see you're on ketosis, yeah, you're peeing energy.
Yep.
You're wasting energy by heat, by a lot of processes. Also, you're ingesting probably more protein than you were ingesting before, or the same. But also, protein is when it's metabolized, some of its calories is wasted as energy. It's called the thermic effect of food. So you're wasting calories because of the new diet change.
Yep.
Eventually, it happens at the third month or at the sixth month, depends on the person basically. Your body starts to adapt to this new way of eating, especially if you have not like deviated.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts to become more tuned, especially if you are doing some kind of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is that you become more efficient at using ketones and fatty acid as fuel, and then it basically balances everything out. You are not wasting calories anymore.
Yeah.
That's when people who have done the diet for a while start to see that they cannot keep eating that much.
Yeah.
They have actually, how we say, use fat as a lever. So you eat, if you're going to train, you probably need a little bit more fat. If you are lean, you probably need more fat. But if you are overweight, you need to tune down the amount of fat you actually ingesting because you're not wasting it anymore.
Yeah, you're not wasting it anymore, and you need to start tapping into your own stores.
Exactly. That's and also because another thing that happened is because people have read everywhere that keto is a high fat diet. They still think on percentages, like we said before. They think that they actually have to ingest the fat to stay on ketosis, and that's not how it goes. You have to just keep carbs sufficiently low, so your body decides to burn fat as to get the energy. You don't need to really ingest that high fat. When your body, like Ted Naiman says, Dr. Ted Naiman, says like if you are high fat, if your body has the high fat, you don't need to ingest extra fat. You already have the high fat of keto.
Yeah, you just need the low carb. You already have the high fat.
Exactly.
So speaking of that, you had mentioned that fat is a lever. Let's do a little bit of a dive on that with the philosophy, because the motto with Keto Gains is that carbs are a limit, fat is a lever, and protein is a goal. Mm-hmm. Explain that a little bit more for my listeners so they can kind of understand why the Keto Gains approach is different than maybe what they've heard about what ketogenic diets are.
Yeah, like first, normally people who read about keto, what they will read is that it's a low carbohydrate. They will probably read that it's a low protein and high fat diet, and it's explained in percentages, which normally go like 5% carbohydrates, 20% protein, and the rest from fat, which could be 75, 70, 65, depends. And what people need to understand is that this is, because there's no real differentiation out there until recently, that this is a therapeutic approach to ketosis.
Yeah.
This is the classic, because most of the literature and studies you will find before some years, because recently they changed that, was done on using a ketogenic diet to treat epileptic children.
Yep, at Johns Hopkins, yep.
Exactly. So here the goal was not really to get people lean or to use ketosis as an approach to gather optimal body recomposition or lose weight. Here the approach was to get the body to produce as much as ketones as possible, because having high ketones is a way, your brain uses glucose and ketones. So the less glucose your body has, and the more ketones your body has, it's a proven approach to lower seizures and treat epilepsy.
Yes.
Because glucose, as you know, it's gathers an inflammatory response, and what you want to do is stop inflammation. So the body will always use glucose, but you want to stop the dependence on it and get it to use ketones. So that's how that traditional ketogenic diet was developed. What they found out was that also people who did this approach lost a lot of weight. So they started, some people copying the approach, and then also bodybuilders, and that's how it actually got more popularized as a weight loss tool.
Yeah.
But people try to do a therapeutic approach to keto when their goal is fat loss.
Yeah.
And because they only focus, like we said, on the total weight, they don't know about body recomposition, and the goal is not really to lose weight, it's to lose the right kind of weight, and this is body fat. You don't want to lose muscle.
Yes.
If you keep using ratios, it really doesn't make any sense, because you can do the same ratios when you're using a 1,000 calorie diet or a 2,000 calorie diet or even a 5,000 calorie diet. And like we just explained, calories do matter on keto. Probably not so much at the start, but eventually they will. You can get weight on keto. We have lots of people who even gain weight by eating fat bombs and bulletproof coffee, and they don't know why.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're having a 500 or more caloric beverage, basically made of fat and devoid of nutrients.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't like to use percentages. Also, because it's best to use the more modern and more evidence-based traditional approach to calculating macros, which is you always calculate protein as the axis. If you do keto or you don't do keto or whatever diet, you always calculate protein needs first. Why? Because your body is made of proteins. It's not just muscle. People think that protein is just for big muscles, and that's not true. All your body, from hair to toes, nails, eyes, organs, muscles, yes, but even hormones are made of proteins.
It's
That's
the
why
building blocks of everything.
Your body is like if it was a set of Lego blocks. So amino acids, which are the smallest particle of proteins, need to be replenished on a daily basis. Your body is daily degrading, not just when you do any training. Every day you die a little bit, and those cells need to be replaced. So that you have a minimal amount of protein you need to eat for optimally replenishing all your cells. If you stop giving adequate protein, then what happens is your body will say, okay, well, I have to replenish the most important parts, which are probably the organs and my hormones and my cells and blah, blah, blah. So which are the least important parts? Of course, the muscle. So it takes amino acids from your muscles and converts them to, amino acids that they will be used to repair and build parts that are more necessary. People say, yeah, I don't care about muscles because I don't want to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like that. You need muscles not because you want to look good.
Yeah.
But you need muscles to move. There's some turmoil out there now with the fasting and everything, that people say that they're eating so little protein because they don't care about first muscles, and then protein gives you cancer and they will live longer, blah, blah, blah. But they forget that as you age, you can utilize less protein from what you eat.
Yeah.
So there's this thing called sarcopenia, where you normally will lose a little bit of protein as you muscle as you age. Yeah. And this is a normal process, but you can't stop it. How do you stop it? By eating adequate protein, even a little bit more as you age, because you can obtain less and less and less amino acids out of it as you age. You become less sensitive to protein, and doing some kind of strength training. There's this principle in nature that's called the disuse principle. It's basically use it or lose it.
Yep.
If you don't give any resistance exercise to your arms or legs, your body thinks that you're not really using them. And again, as I said, they're not necessary. They are a waste of energy, so I'm going to make them smaller. So you want to live longer? I give you that. But who wants to live to 100 years if you're going to live on a wheelchair,
Right.
and not able to even clean yourself when you go to the bathroom?
It's not
Probably
the quantity of life, but it's also the quality of life.
Exactly. So you may be better living at until 90 or 95 and be able to do everything that you do right now, and not having the issue that you fell and you broke your hip and you have to wait 5 hours until someone comes and helps pick you up. So like you said, it's quality. But then again, we were talking about what we suggest on Keto Gains. Okay, you always set protein as the axis, and it's very easy. You said protein at around 0.8 grams, which is what we suggest for almost anybody, by lean pound you weight. Why by lean pound? Because you don't want to feed your fat.
Yep.
So let's just feed your lean mass, which is not your muscles, but all organs, bones, etc.
Yeah, and this is a perfect example of what I'm currently doing, because I tell folks, I started this, I still have about 100 pounds I want to lose, but I went ahead and started this so that way people can also follow along with me as I go. And judging from my body composition, I'm anywhere around 155 to 170 pounds of lean body mass. Now we can talk about ways of calculating lean body mass, and Luis just shared something with me not too long ago of why that a lot of the methods aren't as reliable as you might think, like the DEXAs, the bod pods and stuff. But I went and got a bod pod because it was relatively recent for me, and I'm not taking it as gospel, but it does give me kind of a starting point. It's a rough area. And so it estimated me at about 160 pounds of lean body mass, which I kind of figured that with my body fat percentage. And so what Luis is saying is when I'm checking my protein or setting my protein level goals, I should be using that 160 pound mark, not my current 300 some pounds.
Exactly.
I don't need to be eating 0.8 of 300 pounds. I need to be eating 0.8 of 160 pounds.
Yeah, and that's very achievable on any diet. Like, people freak out about eating that much protein.
Yeah.
There's no real negativity about eating that much, because it's really not that much.
No, it's not.
Actually, what people there's been a current census. Normally, people in the United States eat about, on average, about 70 to 80 grams of protein.
Yeah.
So you're likely, all the studies support that an increase in protein increases your metabolism and increase fat loss. In any diet you actually
and it's the most satiating of all the macros,
it's
too.
the most satiating, and again, your body is made up of protein. So if you want to be optimal with optimal health and everything, increase a little bit your protein. And as you said, it's not going to be that much. I think the average male in the United States would probably be consuming about 120, 130 grams at most. And the typical woman would be at around 80 to 100.
Yeah.
And that's using the 0.8 formula calculation.
Yeah.
If you're going to be strength training, on days you strength train, you could probably increase a little bit more by probably using a whey shake or eating a little bit more chicken.
Yeah.
Like 20 grams at most is what you will actually need to add. Like 20 25. You don't need that much. Mm-hmm. You don't need to go like some bodybuilders that you see that eat 300 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
How are you even going to eat that much protein just by using whey shakes? It doesn't make any sense. So, like, if you had, like, for people who don't know or are a little bit afraid of how much that protein is, the easiest way is just any piece of meat on average, let's say a chicken breast that weighs 100 grams, or beef that weighs 100 grams, or 100 grams of tuna, for example. About 20% of their weight is protein. So if you have 100 grams of chicken, probably it's around 18 to 22 grams of protein.
Gotcha.
So it's basically just do the math, and it's not that much. And people who complain, I don't know if you've had it on the boot camp, but the number one complaint that we have from people in our boot camps is that it's too much food. So you are on a diet where you're actually complaining that you're eating that much food and you're losing weight. And we go with people, you go and you finish your chicken, even if you don't want it. You finish your beef. But like it's, and they're not eating globs of fat. No, they're eating their vegetables. And they're eating high quality protein.
Yep.
And that's basically the thing that people like don't want to once they get on our protocol. But then that's why we go about protein. So protein is a goal. You have to hit it every day. Why? Because as we said before, there's degradation of your cells. So you want to be optimal. Yeah. You want to maintain the muscle you have. You want to maintain optimal body functions on hormones and everything. Then because you're doing a ketogenic diet, carbohydrates are a limit.
Yep.
And this limit really depends a little bit on the size of the person, their insulin sensitivity, etc. But normally it will go about 20 to 30 grams of net carbohydrates.
Yeah.
What are net carbohydrates is the total carbohydrate minus the fiber. Mm-hmm. So this allows you actually to eat lots of green vegetables.
Oh, yeah.
When you deduct the fiber. For example, even avocado. For example, a normal avocado, which normally weighs about 200 grams, 200 grams of avocado, of course, without the pit and the skin.
Yeah.
It's a lot of food, again. So normal avocado has around 12 grams or so of carbohydrates, maybe a little bit more, depends on the size. But if you actually take the fiber away, it's just going to be an average between 4 and 5 grams of carbohydrates.
Yep.
So you could probably eat, if your pocket allows it, because then avocados are expensive.
Right.
You could probably eat like 4 or 5 avocados a day and still be below your 25 grams of carbohydrates a day.
And you're going to be so full on that.
And you're going to be full, and it's an incredible, source of vitamins, a good amount. It's the good type of fat that you should be eating.
Yep.
And you're gonna be eating guacamole like the devil. So it's like if you can, like I just recently spent a week with Rob Wolf. And wow, he and his family, his children, they eat basically like 1 or 2 avocados a day. So you have like a 5-year-old children asking for more avocado. It's incredible.
Yeah, my daughter Hazel, she just turned 2, and she loves guacamole. It's
like the best food ever.
It
and
is.
It's so versatile. You can have it salted. Like normally if I'm like bored, just grab an avocado, add some sea salt on top of it, maybe a little bit of paprika.
Yeah.
And just bite it. Mm-hmm. Or you could even add a little bit of stevia if you want it like more sweet.
Yeah.
Like here's a little parenthesis. If you want this is something that we shared with it's a recipe of mine that we shared with our clients right now in boot camp. I'll throw you the recipe after we finish.
Yeah, I can post it in the show notes.
For people who are a little bit lazy and want a super nutrient-rich food and you are on the go, just grab like 1 scoop protein shake. It's better with vanilla or unflavored.
Yeah.
You can add half an avocado or just leave the avocado out depending on your macros. But 80 grams of spinach or kale, a little bit of cucumber, ginger, a little bit of mint if you want, turmeric, and almond milk. Of course, the unsweetened one, the one that has less than 30 calories.
Not Silk's almond milk vanilla, which is...
No, use the one that has basically less than 30 calories per glass.
Yeah. Or
use the cashew one or coconut milk, the one you like, the one that is without sugar.
Yeah.
And just mix it all in a blender and have it. We call it a Hulk smoothie. It's basically protein, has all the antioxidants you need because it's, spinach is super high in vitamins and minerals. And if you want a little fat, you add the avocado. If you don't want the extra fat, leave the avocado out.
Yeah.
and it's like between 150 up to 200 calories worth of the best quality nutrients that you will ever need.
Nice.
It's like one way to get all the vitamins and electrolytes that you want. You can even add a little bit of salt in it. It really depends on the person, but that's one way to get your nutrients for the day.
Yeah,
So that's
so
carbs.
that cues me up for two more questions. And just so I'm respectful of your time, Luis. We're at an hour. I'll probably divide this episode up into two parts, but I want to be respectful of your time. So
I have like all the day free so don't
okay,
worry.
so because I love nerding out about this, so I'm not in a rush.